everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Mindful Academy. I am Jennifer Askey, your host and coach. And today I am meeting with Lisa Leander, the founder and CEO of WiBE, which I learned as the Women in Business Education Network, but has now pivoted to where imagination builds excellence. And that pivot is super interesting, and it's part of what we're going to talk about today. But before we start talking about the business, I'm going to let Lisa introduce herself a little bit. Like, where'd you come from, and why did you create a community for initially women and now for all sorts of leaders in business education? So give us a little background.
Welcome, everyone. Hello. I am joining you outside of Washington, D.C. in Fairfax, Virginia. It's a perfect fall day, and I am thrilled to be with you.
It
And
is snowing in Edmonton, just so we
what?
can set
Not
the
yet.
scene.
Not yet. I started WiBE, gosh, in the middle of the pandemic, almost exactly 5 years ago. Gosh, it was from today. And initially, I started it with a focus on women. I had been working with business schools all over the world in a former position and had met all these amazing women at business schools around the world. And I realized that not all of them knew each other. And I decided to bring us all together at a very difficult time in 2020 when everything was shut down. And I thought if I could get five business educators together, we can discuss what's happening with strategy, what's happening with the schools. And so I put a call out and said, I'm launching Women in Business Education. If you're interested in talking about strategy, you're invited on this date and time. And I didn't get five. I had over 50 deans register and attend our very first meeting. So I said, I am on to something here. There is a need to connect in one of the most difficult times of education. And now, 5 years later, I feel that we're in another difficult time of education. From there, we continued to grow from deans to associate deans to faculty until we're about a little over 500 members. But with many changes this year, with many changes as we grow our impact, we pivoted this year. And I know there's a lot of other schools that are pivoting along with me with different changes happening at universities. And we changed our name. We still go by WiBE, but with a new name where imagination builds excellence and a pivot to thinking about the future of education and creative leadership and open to both men and women.
So you just said creative leadership, and that just got my ears to perk right up. Changes in education and creative leadership. Like I hear a door opening there, and maybe on the other side of the door are scary monsters, and maybe on the other side of the door it are just amazing, bright, hopeful things. Talk to me about what kinds of changes you think your leaders, your community are shepherding.
I love that within our membership that we have created this community, this safe space, this community to do things differently, to try things out, to share our real experiences. And I'm really proud of that, of what we have been able to through our virtual convenings and our in-person convenings. And for one thing, certainly the character has taken on from me leading it, the culture of what we provide in this community. And I am one of those people who embraces playful, joyful, positive leadership,
Yeah.
even in the hardest of times. And this was something that I brought and why we were created in 2020, that we could still have a space to dream and to hope and to see the world differently, even during the toughest of times.
Mhm.
And there's certainly a lot of other organizations talking about how tough it is, talking about a lot of the negative things happening, swirling around us, and that there can be a place that even in tough times, you can have hope and joy in the activities that we're doing. So next week, we're doing fundraising Fundapalooza, a circus all about fundraising. Even though fundraising is not that fun for a lot of people, we can
But it
still
can
find
be,
the joy in
right?
it.
It's relationship building. It's finding mutual points of connection and stories that resonate. Like it can be lots of fun.
And I think what we've lost in academics is this is mission driven. This is impact. This is changing lives. This is remembering us being undergrads and finding the meaning and the joy even when there's lots of difficulties happening around us.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we were setting this up, and then again just now, you mentioned leading with curiosity. And I approach that as a coach where like one of the maxims of a coaching mindset is ask less, ask more, and tell less, right? So don't assume the answer, especially if you're in a leadership position, right? You have tons of smart people around you. Yeah, tell less, ask more. So that's what I think of when I think of leading with curiosity. Like, what else could be true? What other perspectives could come to the table? Whose voices are we not hearing? What do I not see? What do we not know yet that we could know? How is curious leadership informing the work that you're doing in community in WiBE?
The thing that when I think about curiosity is the what if question. And so many of us lean towards the what if and turn it into a snowball of negativity.
Right?
The spiral. What if this?
Right?
What if that?
Danger, Will
We
Robinson,
always, right?
danger
And there's
here.
this safety mechanism that we have, that we biologically have to prepare for the worst. And when I think about leading with curiosity, it's what if this really bad thing is the best thing that could have happened to us? So
Mm.
many times when we look back into our past, our toughest situations, the really hard times in our career, they don't make sense till 5 to 10 years later when you think, because of that bad experience, I became this person, or I landed up getting another job when I was laid off that was a better fit. And leading with curiosity for me is, how do we turn lemons into lemonade?
Yeah.
What if this is the best thing that could happen to us? What if the budget being cut was a really positive thing because we could cut some things that we always wanted to do and never had permission to do? What if this job change allows me to get dials in 2 inches closer to where I was meant to be? And I truly believe that no matter where you are feeling stuck, that you can always pick up a shovel and start digging for gold. I just, there is opportunity everywhere. There's opportunity when budgets are cut. There's opportunity when programs disappear. There's opportunities when your trajectory where you thought you were going one way turns out to be another. And that's why when we pivoted this year, moving from women's leadership to a community of creativity, I thought about all the doors that it could open and the people that we could impact and the changes that we are going to have to make. But to make that change, I think this is where we get lost when we're leading with fear. And there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear out there right now as I speak. The government has been furloughed, and there is a lot of legitimate concern of health and safety. But being curious and being fearful cannot live together. Yeah, you can be fearful or you can be curious, but usually one. And taking a step back and saying, what does this mean? Where does it go? What's the science behind it? I think that is really helpful as we go through the unknown. So, a couple of tricks that I can give on the what if is make
Yeah.
sure instead of spiraling down, can you what if up? What if this is the best thing that could happen to us? What would that look like? What if I could make this a joyful experience? What would that look like? And then the other thing is to then put on someone else's hat. What would someone that you admire do in this position? What would my grandma do in this position? What would the president of this university do in this position? What would Madeleine Albright do if they were me? What would someone that you respect, how would they proceed in this moment? And staying curious about that. And then finally, the other thing around creativity is when I think about creativity and when I develop programming, I think about it as taking two things that don't usually make sense together and putting them together. So, for example, for the fundraising summit, right? It was like, let's do an academic fundraising session, but let's make it a circus. Two completely different ideas that you smush together. And there's a bit of playfulness that we don't allow ourselves in academia. Academia is so serious. And I think when people think of creativity, think of art and music. and they don't think about the innovative ideas of two totally different aspects and putting them together. And I think there's a lot of fun in that. And I wish that we gave ourselves permission to be a little bit more playful, to try out two different dramatic ideas and put them together. And to do that, you do need to be around people that embrace it. You need to be people around who will not criticize you for it. When you do something silly, that you won't be laughed for it. And we don't have a lot of that in academics. And that's why I feel that our community, having a community to do just that, and to share that experience, it's okay to have fun too.
It is okay to have fun. And as you're talking, I'm just thinking of all sorts of contact points in my own career story where I've watched leaders operate out of fear and scarcity as the default. Like the what if always ends up with I'm homeless, unemployed, and living in a refrigerator box underneath a freeway on-ramp. Right? That appears and I will cop to that being like part of my native wiring as well. Like how can we I'm going to catastrophize my way through this thought exercise and imagine all of the ways that it could end super, super horribly. But like when we are in when we let negativity bias run the show, every rustle in the bushes is a tiger that's going to bite you. There's no, we aren't even going to be attuned to the opportunities that do exist. We won't see the beauty. We won't see the creativity. We won't see the possibility because we've turned our decision making over to catastrophe and negativity bias. And that just looms so, so large. So it's not a matter of saying, oh, there are no problems. It's like, yeah, there are problems. There are enormous problems. And also, against this backdrop, what is still possible and what's in your zone of control and your zone of influence to move and to choose and to opt? Like, where do you have a shovel that you can dig with? As opposed to, this is all happening to me. I have zero control, and it's going to end with me being homeless in a refrigerator box underneath the freeway on
But let's get curious about that. And I think it's important to be realistic. And I do think it is important to address your main fears because they could happen. And I think, what kind of box would you live in?
it.
What would we do with the box? And like, where would I go to the bathroom? How would I eat? And if you suddenly get curious about this scary life and like, I would survive, I would still survive, and I would help people with their resumes, and I think there is an importance in letting yourself go there. But when you think about life, we're all running this race to life and we're all running. Okay. Some people are walking fast if you don't like running, but generally people who like running. And there's the person who runs a marathon and it's strenuous, but they like the process of it and going through it and practicing for it. And they are pushing themselves. And then there's the same person running the same speed on the same race, but they're being chased by that tiger. And I think about when I make my choices in life and when I'm picking decisions and when I'm making hard decisions for my career or for my family. Are you choosing that because you are enjoying the race and running towards something, the finish line? Are you choosing that because you're afraid of the tiger behind you is going to leave you homeless? And I challenge those listening who have a decision to make to take a minute of pause and say, am I making that choice because I'm reaching for something greater, because I can enjoy the process, or am I truly making a choice out of fear?
And do you have a community of people around you who will support you in finding the positive in the journey instead of merely like coloring in the fine details of the tiger and making the tiger as bold and bright and present as possible? And so I
I'm
think community and support to be creative, to be appropriately positive, because I think there are environments where people are having a really hard time accessing their creativity. And so the environment is doom and gloom. And so if I come in with creativity, am I going to find a couple people who will say, yeah, well, we will choose hope with you. We will choose creativity with you instead of woe has befallen us. It is horrible from now until the end of time.
And I want to remind everyone, creativity and innovation are the same word. They do mean the same thing. And we've heard that women relate more to creativity and men relate a little bit more to innovation. But we certainly in business schools talk a ton about innovation, a ton about disruption, that how much we need it. But it's a lot of talking and not walk the walking. Because it
Which
is.
is super interesting, right? Like the knowledge that your your average business school, like the research knowledge in that building around innovation, around change management, around appropriate risk taking, around like all of these things that universities need to be engaged in. There's a lot of wisdom in the business school, and are we accessing it in the service of our own institutional improvement, or are we just accessing it for the H points on our CVs?
I think business schools are doing a lot of really great things. I get to hear about the programming and honestly how quickly they've moved with AI and in offering programs. And ironically, my daughter is in high school right now researching all these schools, and I get to see it from both sides. What I think a lot of us struggle with, though, is that tradition balanced with innovation. They simply are hard to live together. And there is so much tradition and history that we love
Yeah.
about higher ed, and we have to acknowledge that. But then again, it also creates sort of bureaucracy and difficulty to keep up with a very fast moving world.
And universities they're not career colleges, they're not junior colleges, they're not structured to pivot quickly. We have shared governance, right? Tenured faculty who have a voice and should have a voice because they are the holders of the disciplinary expertise that is part of what the university is selling to undergrads and graduate students. So, like the speed of change of the economy, of politics, social innovation, and the speed of change of most universities are just not aligned, right? Universities are not fast-moving speedboats. Some of them are that tanker ship that remember got stuck in the Panama Canal during COVID. Remember, we all watched that for a minute. Some universities are there trying to pivot, trying to maneuver, and finding that really challenging. And so when I hear you talk about creativity and innovation, I think there is, for me, I tell my clients that for me, creativity is the opposite of reactivity, right? And how many decisions, either on a personal level or on an organizational level, are we making in a reactive fashion? This bit of news drops, oh, we have to react. This change happens, oh, I have to react. And being positioned in a reactive mode is stress producing because that's the tiger every single day. Every change is there's more rustling in the bushes. If if you can access creativity, can you move away from that reactive, oh no, now what? Oh no, now what? Oh no, now what? So accessing creativity is a whole individual and organizational skill set. In WiBE, do you guys talk about like how to get into that creative zone?
It's funny because I've done the personality test and I'm a very creative person. I do consider that a gift that I bring to the community, but in very stressful situations, I can fold into myself and become almost anti and even more conservative. So I like to think about it. That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, especially working with the leaders of these institutions where so many decisions are simply outside of many people's control. Some of these decisions were made 50 years ago that we are working on. And that's a lot of pressure to put yourself under and in that reactive state. I like to think about it as more when people talk about it, networking or network or community. Really, for me, it's about having this entire ecosystem of support, that you need the entire circle around you. And while we do focus on leadership in a creative community, for some people it's just harder than others, but you have to surround yourself with those that can bring that into your life and
Mhm.
surround yourself with the pieces that you're missing and surround yourself with those people who are more positive and also the ones that are realistic, that don't want you to take scary leaps right now, because there are careers that are being ended quickly. There are people with a trajectory of life in academia. We are reading it in the news. And I think it's a time I talk about bold leadership, about being bold in these times of crisis. I know a lot of it's around values-based leadership. I think that's really subjective to me when people talk about it versus what does it mean for you to feel and be bold in this moment of time. At the same time, knowing that many of us are prime breadwinners, we are the security blanket. Having a job sometimes is simply self-care. Right now, it feels like even having a job that isn't the best fit or might even be more toxic is a form of self-care for yourself and for your family. And I think there's a lot of pressure to feel like if we can move the needle, and maybe moving the needle sometimes too quickly is not the best thing either. But for me, and how I stay and constantly moving forward, especially in agile. It's not maybe reactive, it's getting from reactive to agile. All
That
those
makes
things
perfect sense.
being thrown at you are actually opportunities, right?
Yeah.
It's reframing all of the different policies, procedures, budget cuts, things happening in politics at the state level, or if anyone's joining us internationally at the international level, is creating your own agility and then your own support of knowing who and where to go, because it's unfair to expect yourself to know it all. It's unfair what we put on leadership of higher education right now.
I think that the notion of not assuming that the buck stops with you and so you're the only one involved, but that who's your wise counsel, who's your community, who's your gut check. If you say values-based leadership, which values are you talking about? Where are you drawing lines in the sand? Where are you negotiating? Because negotiating is smart. Yeah. As you've pivoted the mission of WiBE away from just women's leadership to imagination and excellence in business education, you've also opened the door to men. And I'm curious, and I know this pivot isn't super old. Tell me what you're noticing in community as you've changed the name and just refocused the mission a bit. It is not dramatically different from what you've been doing, but it's a bit of a shift. So tell me what you're noticing in the community.
And welcome to all the other pivoters here. Give me a shout out for anyone else.
Right?
A career
Pivot, pivot.
pivot, a university pivot,
Mhm.
a program to pivot. I even found out my degree program at my undergrad. I don't know if it's going to be around anymore. A lot of us are just pivoting in thinking about change and how change is happening. So, one, we've always had men and women in our community. And in most women's organization, we never sexually discriminated. You never could. And so we've always had men and women. But simply by changing our name, we become a lot more inclusive in regards to our mission and making sure that everyone feels welcome. And so, from a programmatic view, we shifted to be a more inclusive community. And for me personally, it means that I can make a bigger impact and that we need men and women at the table working on some of the greatest challenges of higher education, of business education. And it's opened our doors a lot to working with the future. So, working with future deans, working with future associate deans, future chairs. So, becoming a leadership institute that people can come do both for professional development, but also a place to feel community. I think we all feel like we're going through this and it's just us, but it's not. I can assure you, in talking with hundreds of leaders of business schools, that it is a very similar situation. And sometimes simply not feeling alone in whatever you're going through is enough to get you through that next step, to get you from chasing the bear to realize you're just running the race along with everyone else and you're just working towards that finish line. And I am proud that we have been able to pivot. We welcome men and women, welcome you to come and check us out, either at our virtual summits. We have monthly workshops. We do inner circles with smaller groups. Let's see, we'll be launching our Future Deans program as well. And so we're hoping to be the place that you come and start your career and then graduate, become alumni in your retirement through us as well. But I think everyone out there is grappling with really changing times. AI is going to completely, dramatically change what we teach in business education and who we graduate and what talents are out there. And having that immediate network that you can go to when you have questions, when you have challenges, when you're looking for your next career, when you're even thinking about what you could do for your next career. And I hope that we're the place that you can keep dreaming about that. That there's always opportunity. I'm always one to say that whether you are climbing up the ladder or take a shovel and are digging down for gold, there's always opportunity to learn and grow and connect.
Yeah. And before we hit record, I was telling you about clients of mine who work in business schools, who are faculty in business schools, who aren't yet in leadership roles, and maybe that's their path, maybe it isn't, but you're open to those people too. Like you don't have to be a dean in the making to come to WiBE and be in community with people who care about business education.
I assure you, very few people are deans in the making, especially right now. I think we need more people just to simply be curious. Would I even be interested in that? I don't think that right now there's really a good pipeline to even encourage individuals to say, maybe this could be a cool job for you. We need more people tapping each other on the shoulder and saying, just come be curious about it. Just come to Future Deans and learn what you could do. It might not be for you, but maybe it could be for you. And goodness knows, looking at how much change that's happened, what's going to happen to that role. So absolutely, all of our programming is focused on building your leadership skills, but we definitely have faculty at all levels, assistant deans, associate deans. We are very heavy in business education, not going to lie, it is very much your peers will be business schools, but we do have people outside of it as well. But it is a place to come and be curious and welcome and warm and talk about what's really happening on the ground.
And I also want to pick up on like the value of taking a peek behind the curtain of what it might look like to become a chair or a dean or an associate dean. Because even if you decide that's not your path, maybe you understand a little bit more about how the business side of the university is run. What one thing I notice in both my one-on-one work with clients and in the like departmental level work that I do is that if you're a faculty member, like teaching and research are your jobs and they can take up all of the available time and then some. And so at what point are you going to get a sense of what it means to run a budget or what it means to appropriately scaffold XYZ curriculum so that students graduate in this amount of time? What does it mean? Like when the budget model at the university changes and what sort of ramifications does that have at the department level? Like those sorts of things aren't in your purview as a faculty member. Having a sense of who deals with that and how that impacts a department or a college or a school can be super valuable even if you never intend to walk down that path.
Very true. And our inner circles that meet each month is a smaller group of 5 to 6 that meet monthly. And everyone gets to bring whatever problem they want to bring and have 5 other people mastermind on it. So those are our smaller, we call them inner circles. Those are smaller groups where it truly is your safe space to bring any problem,
Yeah.
personal or professional, that you would like that meet each month.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you need that regardless, whether it's here, whether it's your
Yeah.
at your institution, scientific studies have shown that if you have a best friend at work, that you are just happier in your job. It's one of the criteria of business happiness. And sometimes we can't find our best friend at work. So you have to find it through your community.
And sometimes having a work BFF who's not at your organization or institution gives you a nice little perspective that isn't inside the hot box of your particular context.
I
I
feel
love
for
it.
anyone working with leadership, I just want to remind you, you are not alone what you are going through. I don't think there's a single academic leader not working on transitions and significant changes, staffing changes, HR changes, accreditation changes. A lot is moving so quickly. And I've worked in business education for about 15 years. So I was back in 2008 when the
Oh, right.
flood and
That was a crisis moment
that
too.
was a crisis moment too. This one feels profound. Then again, there's been a lot of complaints on things like we have to change tenure. We have to change some of our search committee and we have to make these changes. And also, I feel hopeful that, okay, if everything is being changed so much, maybe we can tackle some of those things that we've complained about for decades, yet not made any movement towards. And can we be curious about it? What if? Can we be creative about it? How do we make it a little different? I will say the one thing when you think about innovation, though, is simply to get it's the crazy ideas that come out and that people actualize is that you have to be in a safe enough space to even say it out loud.
Yeah.
And what we're
Yeah.
seeing right now is just so much, there's a lot of toxic environments that people simply don't even feel safe to even say an idea out loud, much less the safety to execute on it.
Yeah.
And that is tough.
And we know that creativity, innovation require psychological safety. Like
They
people
do.
need to feel safe to experiment, to try things out, to fail in safe ways, right? If my last academic boss once told me about a program we were developing, failure is not an option. I was like, wow, wow, somebody
And you're
gonna
not.
bleed out here?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna bleed out. Like it's all okay.
Yeah.
If that's the attitude here, how is that replicating across campus? And what is that stifling,
Then you're doing same old. Then you're doing
right?
same old because, yeah, anything new has a risk of not working out, or at least providing it. So I want to talk to people in those environments on how to still find your creative spirit without dying. Because I have been in those toxic environments and I have experienced that. I've experienced it with very toxic boss and feeling my creative spirit being absolutely stifled. So I want to talk to you guys. I want to talk to all you out there on how to survive that. And the first thing is please don't keep throwing yourself against a brick wall. If you truly have a brick wall, you can absolutely crush your soul in trying to make change. So if you are in that environment right now, you don't have psychological safety, you have people telling you that failure is not an option and there is just too much stress, then I really want to encourage you to leave that, to not become a helpaholic. You don't have to save everyone or save everything. You can continue to do your job, but can you find your creative spirit elsewhere? So, can you volunteer? Can you, even if you can pick up a hobby, can you be on a board somewhere else? Don't let everyone's fire around you suck out all of your oxygen. Because I can know that being a person that creativity is a muscle that you constantly have to build and you get better at the more creative you are, the more creative you are, the more right, you build on it. And those in environments where you're being absolutely stifled and crushed, it does go away where you don't feel,
Yeah.
and certainly in academia where this critical analysis is absolutely praised. The red pen is praised, but there's not many people being praised for the yes and yes and yes, let's try that. Tearing people down is much easier than saying building people up. Thank you for sharing that really cool idea. How could we make this work given X? So for those out there, please, I see you, I feel you. Find your project, get your shovel out, find something secretive, keep keep the hope alive elsewhere outside of your career. And then long term, if you can't leave, sometimes you just have to go elsewhere. If you truly can't leave your space, really start looking around for the program, the center, the individual, the community that I built my own community. I was working full time in the private sector in the pandemic, and it became very clear with my children it couldn't continue. And I just built my own as well as that.
I really want to honor what you're saying around sometimes keeping the job is non-negotiable, and yet the job isn't ticking all the boxes for you. It's not letting you be your creative self. It's maybe in a place that isn't psychologically safe. Where can we each build our own local community, whether it's at work in different departments, whether it's in our towns, in volunteer organizations. I've said before on the podcast, like my first step towards a career pivot that worked for me after the summer of holding down the couch and crying a lot was volunteering at the YWCA. And it it gave me a way to use some of my skills that in higher ed never got praised. They were just assumed. I got some positive feedback and I got to see that like the world is bigger than my faculty role. The world is bigger than my administrative role. And I have gifts that I've honed in academia but don't need to live there forever. So I really want to honor you pointing out that maybe you are in a place where you don't feel like you can move from your job, but where is the spark, right? Because if you have a spark, you need to nurture it. We're not going to let jobs kill us.
And I want to reiterate, having a job right now is self-care.
Yeah.
Having a consistent salary and taking care of your family, it is also can be considered self-care of knowing that consistency. And certainly right now in these tumultuous times, even if you're in not the right environment, even if it feels like it is killing your spark, you have that and to embrace that and have grace with that. At the same time, you do have to survive it as your whole person. And I certainly have seen in meeting people where the life has just been drained out of you. And in those particular cases, cannot say enough that, you are in survival mode. Not every this is just one part of you. Your career is just one part. It's not all of you. I think we get sucked into that too, where we're so mission driven,
Well,
so
yeah,
impact
I mean,
oriented.
you
It's
started
just
a company, I run a
a part
business,
of you.
right? Like it's my whole identity, but no, maybe that's not entirely healthy. So apropos, like you starting a business, so you are the CEO and founder of WiBE, and there's also Lisa Leander outside of WiBE who is doing interesting things professionally. Wonder if you want to talk about what you're doing there, because my sense is that a lot of what we've been saying also impacts the work that you're doing outside of WeBe as a consultant.
Sure. So, in addition to the community, I do have a consulting practice as well, and then also working on some career coaching, hopefully being a one-stop shop for those looking to build your leadership within the community. And then, if you need some more significant coaching or specific consulting for education. But I would also say I'm a very busy mom. And it's funny because I don't think anyone like in my like local community like even knows what I do. But if I'd go to a business school conference, everyone would know who I am. But for most of the time, I am at sporting events, I am at Girl Scout events, and I think I play tennis, competitive tennis, 3 mornings a week, slip that in. And I
Good
think
for
it's
you.
really important for all of us. Certainly running this community, I could do it 24/7. There's always things out there, but I also you have to feed your creative soul. You have to get outside your own walls. The best conferences I go to are ones that are completely unrelated to anything that I do. And I always try to bring in this really different kind of speakers. And some ask me like, where is the overlap in this? I'm like, that's the entire point. When you
Right.
go to these academic conferences, we're all just in the same walls listening to all the same people. We're not bringing those totally out of the box voices. And I'm an out of the box voice in business education. I've worked within it, like I said, for many years. And in my past job, I worked on partnerships, but I am not an academic and I am not a dean. And because of that's my greatest strength because I bring a totally different private sector perspective.
Yeah. So in your consulting work, what are the challenges that you're helping organizations, institutions, people surmount?
specifically, and I also sit on the board of a business school in Italy as well. So my background is strategy and strategic planning, but also in positioning and marketing and branding,
Hmm.
as well as working with individuals to up level their branding as well, or thinking about if you're looking to up level your career or build out your network as well. I work with individuals like that.
Yeah. And I want to appreciate that for a minute because as I think this is changing, but I know that change is not uniform. And depending on what branch of the academy you hang out in, the notion of a brand, a personal brand, might give you the ick. I'm talking to my humanities people and some of my social science people. And again, this is not uniform. I'm stereotyping. I'm going to own that for a minute. But I'm going to own it because it was me as a humanities prof. Where I was like, oh, that sounds so glib, so capitalistic, so sleazy. No, like there are how many millions of people? Like 360 million people in America. How are you going to stand out? How are you going to make yourself intelligible to the people who need you, who want you, who need your spark? And ditto for networking, right? Like we see it on LinkedIn, we hear it all the time about how networking is this huge challenge or seems sleazy or seems transactional. No, it's just meeting people, getting to know what they're all about, letting them know what you're all about, seeing if there are points of intersection. Isn't that lovely? It doesn't have to be transactional. And so I think that the more the more resources and the more attention that people like you and people like me and some of the other folks that I've interviewed on the podcast recently, I'm thinking of Jennifer Ben Alstein, who does social media presence for academics, web pages, LinkedIn, things like that. Like this is really valuable. How are we telling the story of our impact in such a way that we are intentionally building our careers, as opposed to just rolling the dice and hoping that the right career happens to us?
It's funny because I felt that exact same way. So shout out to all those people getting the ick right now when I was talking about that. And it's the one thing as a leadership institute where we want to bring in futures and promote them up and coming from the private sector that you want opportunities to come to you. You want mentors to come to you. You want speaking opportunities to come to you. You want research partners to come to you. It is life is easier when your ecosystem of support comes to you and that you are not constantly shoveling, digging for gold. Anything is useful,
Amen.
but it needs to come to you. And the thing is, 5 years ago when I started, I had no LinkedIn, I had no followers, I had no social media presence. I still don't use Instagram. And I almost was afraid to launch WiBE because I was so afraid of that. That is visibility and that is opening yourself up to a lot of criticism. I want to talk about that because I want to talk about when you get creative and playful and positive, you will get a lot of criticism. And women in particular, it is it means you're doing something right when the criticism comes in, but it also means that you need to be prepared for it as well. I wish I could tell almost all academics out there. So, whoever's listening out there, for goodness sakes, please, with your next paycheck, get a new headshot. Okay, just very basic. Go pay for a headshot. Stop being cheap. There are so many terrible headshots on LinkedIn. You use it everywhere. And it's so funny. As soon as you get the headshot, you're going to be asked for it because of some speaking opportunity, some research opportunity. Even if you have no use for it right now, it was one of the first investments I made in myself when I was launching the business. It was the biggest investment that I made at the time. I needed a really nice updated headshot. And I can't even tell you all the places that headshot lifted. And I can't tell you what it does for your confidence to see your current confident self looking right back at you. So first, that's the most basic thing that you can do. Get your new headshot, get it up there, get it out there. A lot of schools have their own photographers. Just take them to the side. Like grab them at your next conference and say, will you take a couple headshots of me? And they actually normally will. So that's first. And then the second is particularly even the arts and humanities, you can follow the faculty who have really learned to leverage their visibility. Follow them and just start imitating them. You can just start following your favorite academics, see how they are leveraging their visibility, and start to mimic. You don't have to come up with this by yourself. But people write to me all the time. I'm having problems. I really could use a mentor. And I thought, I have never had this problem. Like, I have this huge resource. I think at the last Bold the U conference, someone was like, I'd really like a mentor. And I was like, 1 minute later, all right, we got someone with a mentor, raise your hand. And we had 5 people raise their hand, and then it happened.
Yeah.
But the more you hide, the harder,
Yeah.
no one's going to find you, and you're going to
Right.
have to manually find it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, being visible, being legible, being recognizable, like all of those things they make your career easier. They make your life easier. I love that insight, right? You can go chase it, or you can do what is within your control to let it come to you.
And if this is helpful, this is what helped me because to finally get off the ledge is one, I asked a student to help me. Okay, there's no one better to help with your visibility than a student 19 to 21 years old. Honestly, my daughter all the time informs me all the things I'm doing wrong on social media. So one, get student support. Honestly, that get your children support. They can really help you. And then the next thing is what pushed me over that is just I finally had a clear why. I didn't have a clear why on why I should be visible on social media until I launched WiBE because I wanted people to find me.
Yeah.
And if you have a clear why, usually it's around your research
Yeah.
or around your teaching. If
Yeah.
you can come up with a clear why, I think it just makes it easier. But yeah, if we could have a different word for networking and a different word for personal, because those also give me the ick. But when I say you need to be more visible because opportunities will land in your lap. And I will say now, launching WiBE, a lot of opportunities simply come my way because people know who I am and what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
then the next is that I have a clear message and a clear why. So the first step I'd say is come up with your why and then start following people that you admire in your field or related to it. Some amazing deans out there doing some really great stuff on social media and
Agree.
start tiptoeing into mimicking or finding your own way
Yeah.
to be out there too. That'd be my two recommendations.
I think those are great recommendations, and I will echo both of them and also the headshot. Absolutely. And if you already have the headshot and you're like, okay, now what? Then the next time you're giving a talk, make sure that somebody takes some pictures of you giving a talk.
Grab the photographer. I have to do
Mhm.
mine posed. I'm so awkward on stage. My hands are in these weird positions and I have this stricken look on my face whenever I get an action shot. So I always make sure to do a pose shot with the microphone.
I presented at a conference a couple years ago, and they had a photographer doing great things. They forgot to move the table off the stage for my presentation. I was right after a break. And afterwards, the organizers, oh my God, we noticed 2 minutes in, but then we couldn't. And then now all the pictures are like you and this tablecloth. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. But, right, we need
I would also say, yes, if
be
it's a
visible.
selfie, we are judging you. We know it's a selfie. The other thing, the new thing too, is these new AI generators sticking. Don't do the AI generator. Just go get the real shot.
I have a coaching colleague who it was the first person I saw do an AI generated headshot. And I was like, it's you. And it's also a Marvel supervillain all at the same time. And he's actually that was the vibe I was going for. I'm like, fine, as long as that was the intentional vibe, have at it, my friend. But it's not the vibe I would choose. Fine. It's a good supervillain shot, but it's because it's a little cartoony. Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a time when the faculty member out hiking in the woods shot was what showed up on departmental websites. And I think that's maybe less the case now. Like professional, polished is the way to go. So what is next for you?
Yeah, great question. We obviously next week we will be launching our next virtual summit. And then in December, we are going to be tackling student success. That will be our theme, ensuring
Hmm.
student success. And then we have programming every single month. We have different workshops, and we'll also be launching our Future Deans programming. So we offer programs every single month. If you're interested in coming to check one out, please reach out and check out our website.
The
And
links will all be in the show notes for this episode, but it's WIBE network.com. So it's
it,
pronounced WIBEnetwork.com, and it's in individual memberships, institutional memberships. There are lots of ways to be involved. And I really appreciate like the combo of virtual gatherings and in-person gatherings. It's so nice to be with humans. You were in Toronto recently, I saw.
yes, we were in Toronto, and before that, I was in Italy. And then we had our big conference here in Washington, D.C. in June, all around bold leadership.
Excellent. Anything else that you want to share with the audience? I think you've pointed out so many valuable nuggets over the course of our conversation, right?
The one
Around,
thing that I really want everyone to leave with is that you are not alone. You really are not alone. And I think that's the one thing every time we get together in these workshops or these masterminds is, oh, you're going through the exact same thing I'm going through. And even though neither one of us have the answers, neither one of us know if we're on the right path, knowing that there is someone else is going to help me sleep better tonight. So for those not sleeping well, ruminating about what happens, please, what if this was the best thing that's happened to you? What would that look like and how would that change? And hopefully you'll sleep a little bit better tonight. And if you truly are alone, don't be. Come join our community. We're more than welcoming. You're welcome to come join one of our next workshops or one of our inner circles that's coming up. And then our Deanovators. I didn't mention our Deanovators. If you are a dean, we do have a monthly Deanovators where we come together as well at the very highest level. So you are more than welcome. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me.
this has been a delight. And as I said, I will make sure that the website and your LinkedIn are linked in the show notes because I want people to come find you. And I want people to think about what it means to have community and support, whether you're in a leadership position or just trying to find your way and figure out what's next. Maybe you're on a campus where that community is right on your hallway, and maybe you're not. And so finding your people is important. And I think WeBe is a great place to find your people. You guys have fun. I see the pictures and it looks like fun. So, thank you everybody for giving us your ears for a bit this week on the Mindful Academy. Thank you to Lisa for talking about self-care and about not being alone and about getting a great headshot and all sorts of other things. And I will be back in your ears in a couple weeks. And I don't know if it will be an interview or a solo episode because I don't have my list in front of me. But I will talk to you all soon. Let me know what you think. Jennifer at jenniferaskey.com. It's super easy to get in touch and let me know what's resonating or what you'd like to hear. That is all for now.